Hello everyone and welcome to another video. I'm Robert and this is one of my builds. This is gonna be one of the biggest builds I've done so far, and it's gonna be a build in which I use a lot of fractionally angled roads and stuff like that. And it took me a bit to figure out what I wanted to build. I did a lot of experimenting, and it's a pretty complicated one. So in preparation of this build, I actually prepared a design that I had on my second monitor when building this, and I think I ended up deviating from the design a little bit, but the main shape is definitely the same as the design. And I made more than just one design. I think I made like 10 different designs, and I think I could make at least 10 more if I just spent some time on it. So if you like this build and you want to see more of these kinds of builds, please let me know, because I could definitely, maybe in the next region I'll just do all kinds of crazy designs like this, and just make like a big squiggly mega okay, over here I just cut out where I cleaned up the edge of the city a bit. So I could definitely do more of this stuff, and at the start of this I didn't speed up the footage. I did cut out a bit over there, but I wanted to show you how to how to figure out how to draw a circle. So what I did here is I used this specific police station because of where the center of the police station is. It was on the I don't know if it ended up mattering that much, but I thought it mattered, so I used this police station, and I didn't pause here, and I end up activating a strike. So now the radius responds a bit differently to the budget setting, which is kind of annoying. Now I did pause, but for now I have this radius here. And as you can see, it's like on the inside of the road. Now it's a bit more, it's pretty much on the road. And if you then go into crime view, you can actually see that radius while you're building. So that's what I used in order to design these different angles of road transitioning into each other. So I end up doing that for different radiuses, and after some experimentation I decided that using 6 spaces in between the orthogonal pieces would be a nice fit. So here I just deleted the police station because they were striking, and apparently it doesn't really matter. If you just delete them and rebuild it, everybody's happy, I guess, which is pretty weird. I guess my city still takes like a penalty because some people were striking. I don't know how that exactly works. Here I'm just looking for a nice radius, and that's a pretty nice radius, but now it disappeared. So what I had to do now is go back into, go out and into the crime view, and then you can see the radiuses again. But I didn't notice it yet at the start, but now I did notice. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out which angles follow the radius of this curve best. And when I'm building these, I'm paying attention to the price of the part that I'm dragging, because it corresponds to the length of the part. And if you want to be symmetrical about things, which a circle has a high degree of symmetricality, I guess radial symmetricality. So you do want to be consistent between the two directions that you build this from. And so I figured out how to approximately follow this curve. I don't think I was happy with this result yet, so I ended up scooching it over a bit. Yeah, maybe this could have been sped up a bit more, I'm not sure. Doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, so I ended up scooching it over a bit. And yeah, these transitions from fractionary angle 3 to fractionary angle 2 and stuff like that, I just learned those by practicing. And here I decided to just remove the trees to make things a bit more visible. The trees would get replaced by zoning anyways, and I think it's practically free to plop trees back. So yeah, and here I'm just looking, how would that work if I then go into a fractionary angle 2? Can I do a diagonal, and how would it look? And it looks pretty weird. But yeah, there's an in-between option. You can just go from fractionary angle 3 directly into diagonals. So I ended up choosing that one for this radius, because it looked a bit better in relation to the angle of the curve. So why would I be building circular roads like this? Well, why not, I guess. And yeah, so I started with just wanting to build a circle. I think it was one of my first videos where I built like a big circular kind of area, but I just did that by guesstimating the radiuses and stuff like that, and I guess I practiced it a bit beforehand, so it wasn't a pure guess, but yeah, it took me a bunch of figuring out in that one. So I decided that if I wanted to do something like that again, I would probably want to prepare a bit more and figure out how I want my road layout to work. So I ended up planning a whole lot by using just Microsoft Paint. And I guess a lot of people dislike Paint for a certain amount of legitimate reasons, but when you're planning a road layout, you're dragging roads cell by cell, so you want a design program or an imaging program that you can manipulate cell by cell. And in Paint you can actually pretty easily do that. You just have to zoom in all the way, and then you can just use the pencil tool to just paint a single cell. And yeah, by using smart colors to signify different parts of your design, you can then if you know the shape of the transitions and all that stuff, then you have the tools that you'd need to design some interesting layouts for SimCity 4 that would then correspond to cells in game. So that gives you an idea of how to lay out the road network that you're aspiring to build. So here I'm doing the third circle, or third radius of like a quarter circle that I'm building here. And yeah, when you're doing these, in order to keep because of course I have this guideline of the police protection radius, that helps a lot, but to be very precise, you kind of want to space out your diagonals in the exact same amount of tiles as well. And I didn't figure that out till now, or for now, I guess. In the video I didn't figure that out yet. But yeah, of course the diagonals in a circle have the diagonals in circles of different radius should have the same amount of spacing, as well as the orthogonals. So yeah, this one looks a lot better. But yeah, here I think I'm starting to count these things. Yeah, so I counted them. So it looks like it's just 4 ticks, right? But on the left side it touches 2000, on the right side only 1. So it's like 4.5-ish. Something to keep in mind if you want it to be consistent. So now I knew where the next diagonal was gonna be. And this, it's not by chance that this exactly fit, because of course I measured my design in Paint. How did I measure that? I just used the line tool, and then in the bottom left of Paint you can actually see how long the line tool that you're drawing is, and I used that to just give me the exact lengths of things. So next radius. Maybe this is a bit boring, I don't know, but I think it shows the design process pretty well of how to just start off with circles. And I was thinking if it was possible to do like a more oval kind of shape, but I'm not sure how the math on that would work. Yeah, so this time I decided to just start on the diagonal with the design. And I think this actually was a pretty good way of doing it, because now it was pretty easy to yeah, to just trace the line like that. And it was a bit harder to do it from the orthogonal, because it's harder to see where the curve is gonna go, because you don't really get the preview yet when you're doing the fractionally angled to to orthogonal transition, because you start off by doing that bit of 2 and a straight bit, so you don't really know where the shape of the curve is gonna end up. So doing it from the diagonal inwards is actually a pretty good way of doing it as well. And now I'm done with the police station. And yeah, how I end up building the rest of this build is I just use the different setups how do I explain this? Yeah, I guess you could call the way I'm dragging these curves for the circle as like a pattern. And yeah, so I'm gonna use those patterns for the rest, well, not just for the rest of the build. And over here, even though I had like let's call them different radii, so I have 4 different radiuses drawn out over there, and now I went from a radius 2 to a radius 1. So I'm changing the curvature over there from the left side of that straight bit to the other side. And yeah, that's just part of the design that I came up with. I wanted to make some interesting shapes with this way of building roads, and I thought that I think this shape is going to be pretty interesting. So here I'm measuring how long the straight bit is before I transition into fractionally angled stuff, and I do that by just doing like a practice draw of the straight bit on the previously built part. And yeah, I didn't really know by heart how this would work, and I think I drew this wrong here. Yeah, it looks, if you look at it, the diagonals are farther apart on the diagonal that I just drew, so that must have been a mistake. I end up correcting that mistake because I end up noticing how the in-between part is a different length, I think. I'm not sure when I notice it. Yeah, so over here I'm planning, well, I'm trying to figure out, oh yeah, here I noticed that it was wrong, so I decided should probably just draw from the diagonal outwards again, or oh yeah, here I used a different one. I used the wrong one. I forgot that I should have used the level 3 radius, but I think I fixed it in the end. And I sped up this process a bit because, yeah, you see me draw the circle, and it's gonna be a bit more of those kind of things. And yeah, I guess the tricky part now is to figure out where the anchor points in my design are. And I didn't really know, so I had to look at the design that I have. So that's why you saw me standing still over there for a bit. And yeah, so now I figured out where the center line was gonna be of that, and now I can draw out the curves again. And as long as they are lining up with the diagonals, that means that I'm not making a mistake. So there's a different, well, there's gonna be a second kind of circle over there. And I decided to just flatten this out a bit, because I think the curved roads effect is strongest when things are flat. Although, I don't know, I end up, because I didn't really plan how far this design would stretch into the mountains, and it ended up cutting the mountains a bit. I'm gonna be changing what it looks like at the end of this video in the next video, I think, or maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna be changing that at least, because yeah, it's a bit too steep and stuff like that, and it's not really zonable at the end of this video, so I wanted to change that. Now here I'm doing a transition into diagonal, and yeah, I remember figuring something out about wanting to do them in a way. Yeah, so on this side I go from small to large from left to right, and then on the other side I do it in the reverse order, so you get like a zigzag shape. So yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. Oh, I guess I messed up that one as well. Yeah, so I ended up this is pretty tricky if you. So I was learning while building, and I guess you could take those lessons to heart if you want to do something like this. It's easier if you pre-plan your diagonals, so you know the spacing in between those, and that gives you a good guideline for if you're doing your curves correctly. And yeah, at this point I still had one diagonal wrong. The bottom one over there in the bottom quarter circle is wrong, because it's like half a tile short. It's double touching the road on both sides, which means, yeah, I think here I figured that. No, I'm gonna be figuring it out at some point. I just don't know when. Yeah, okay, here I figured it out. So, scooching that over. It doesn't really matter for the part that I was building there. Yeah, maybe I should have made a bit more of a... Yeah, I guess I could have made a more visual... representation for how I needed to draw these curves, because as it is, it was really a struggle to get the right curves on the right spot, and not just the right curves, but to actually follow the right pattern for the curves. So if you're doing this, I think you might want to have a bit more of a clear guiding setup. Maybe you could use rails and streets to to picture out where the transitions are from fractionally angled roads to straight road and stuff like that. So you have a bit more of a visual guideline, because now you're just looking at the curve, and it's, at least for me, it's pretty hard to determine which pieces to draw just when looking at the curve. But yeah, at this point I think I pretty much figured out most of the curves that I wanted to draw and how I wanted to draw them. And yeah, part of this build is also gonna, so here I'm like mirroring the part that I started off with. So there's some more symmetry in this build, and that's part of the design. And that makes for like a tic-tac shape, I guess is what you could call it. I don't know. Makes for an interesting shape in my opinion, because that's why I built it. And here I do have a bunch of orthogonal 6x6 blocks, and that's because I made this like diagonally symmetric. These curves are also part of the design. So I rounded off that bit, and the design that I came up with did that on all sides, or on 4 sides of that piece or patch of square gridding. And here I just used the leveling tool in order to be able to drag that, because I did the first focus on this build is just to get the design on the map, and then I'll figure out if it looks right and how to connect it. So I think I sped up the footage of me figuring out how to connect it and stuff like that a bunch, because it was a struggle, and it's not really that interesting. It's not something that would be necessarily applicable to anybody trying to emulate or use a similar technique in their builds, because the layout is very specific to this case. So I started the second zigzag because there's gonna be a mirrored zigzag. Oh yeah, here I figured out this was wrong. Yeah. That whole diagonal, no, the diagonal is right. It's just that the transitions were a bit different from that one. I'm not sure. No, I think I'm trying to build the wrong one now. Yeah, you made that that motion with the mouse, and all right. So be patient with yourself if you're trying to do anything like this, because it's definitely not easy to figure out exactly what you're doing and why things aren't lining up and stuff like that. But I think it's a way to practice your like insight into what am I trying to say? Well, this does expand your insight into how angles, diagonals, and all those kind of things work together. Of course, this is a pretty complicated this whole design is pretty complicated, but you don't have to start off with such a super complicated thing. Here I'm trying to figure out where the center is again, and it's one too far over. I didn't figure that out yet. Yeah, here I looked at it again. Oh yeah, it's 1 to 5. Yeah, so that's the center of that circle. And yeah, with all the things being 6 tiles in between the roads for the orthogonal parts, that means that you can drag like an 80 simoleon casting piece of road, and then you know it's the whole thing is 8, and the offshoots or whatever are 2, because there's one on the one side and one on the other side, so that means you have the in-between part of 6 when you do an 80 casting bit of road. I don't know if that was clear. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about with me. Well, yeah, that's a bit ago, but yeah, I was talking about the mountain and me not... Yeah, this looks super weird. I'm gonna try to straighten it up a bit, but this is definitely not what I want the final result to look like. I'm not quite sure how to achieve, like, I think I'm just gonna lower this a bunch and make it more smooth, give it a bit, because I do have like the 6 tile spacing orthogonally, and I guess diagonally it's like 4.5. I haven't really calculated if that is if that shapes out to be close enough. Yeah, if you do like the Pythagorean math on that, I don't know if that works out. I guess it would be... let's say 7, because you go from middle to road to middle to road. And then I guess it's 5.5 for the diagonal. So you do 5.5 squared divided by 2, and then the square root of that would be the orthogonal. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if yeah, that would be it. 5.5 squared, so that's 37.5 plus 3.75, so that's like 40. Half of that is like 20, and then square root of 20. I think I'm doing it the wrong way. I don't know. The math that I'm doing in my head right now is not working out. I don't really know why. I guess if I had a pen and paper, I could figure it out. Why those... Oh, right. Yeah, I'm counting the diagonal tiles as whole tiles. That's the problem that I'm doing. Because of course the diagonal direction would not be a whole tile. When you have one tile diagonally, it's a bit more than one tile, because the diagonal of a tile is longer than the orthogonal. So then you'd have to basically do the square root of 2 is the diagonal length of a tile. And then you have to multiply that by 5.5 and see if it's the same as 7. I think it comes pretty close, so I think it's good enough. Yeah, here I had looked at some of the buildings I have installed, and I noticed a lot of the high-rise buildings, or like, yeah, I think they're like big residential blocks. They had a footprint of 5x5, so I decided I wanted to incorporate some 5x5 stuff in there. And here, this is just temporary road stuff, but I decided to try to make it look nice with a bunch of zigzags and stuff like that. Why is this temporary? Because I want both a rail connection going in there. I want a... So here I'm starting on the rail. And yeah, in order to do the rail, I wanted to do a viaduct there. So I ended up connecting that whole thing down. But the street didn't want to do the viaduct underneath the thing, so I ended up using a road for a bit there. I'm still not sure how I want to do because I think I might need like a highway road going across in order to facilitate the large amount of traffic I'm expecting from the residences towards the industries on the other side of town. So I'm not sure how to exactly do that later on. I might just do some high-tech industry around here and give them some jobs around here. And then just build a harbor on this side as well, because I did show I'm not sure if I built it, but I did show it for a bit. There's like a city center kind of harbor that I do want to build, and I also want to build this thing. Now this is a crazy lot. It's super big, and it's by Met-B325, as most of the mods that well, not most of the mods, but a lot of the lots that I have are by him, because I think he's a very talented modder. And yeah, so this is the big city high school with some... I'm not sure what high schools look like in America or stuff, but I guess they might be that big. I don't know. In the Netherlands, we do have high schools that are similar size in terms of building volume, but they don't tend to have dedicated sporting grounds next to them. Of course, there does tend to be like an outdoor place where you can relax during your breaks in the summer, but yeah, I think the footprint might be a bit too big. But I also think I tend to think of cities as at the wrong scale in this game, because I've been looking at cities like Chicago or Detroit, and those are really big cities, but if you look at how big their footprint is when including suburbs and stuff like that, then it's like, I think I saw cities, I'm not sure, but I think I saw them with like an 80 kilometers by 80 kilometers kind of footprint, which assuming a city tile, a big city tile is 4 kilometers, which I think they are. That would mean 20 by 20 big tiles would be just one city, if I'm not derping out my math. So yeah, the cities that I've been building, they are pretty small compared to what kind of footprint a real life city would have. Of course, those are cities with like 10 million population or something like that. I don't know about Detroit, but I guess Chicago with all its suburbs and stuff would have in the realm of like 10 million. I'm not sure. I didn't really look that up, but yeah, that means that my cities, if I want to build a metropolis, it means two things, right? I need to think way bigger in terms of the amount of space and the size of the region that I need to get, but I also need to figure out how to build that stuff without it taking 15 years. So maybe this kind of a build would allow me, if I just make a bunch of designs or sub-designs maybe. So if I design like a certain set of shapes, for instance, we have the quarter circle, we have the zigzag. Now, if I make a set of tileable designs like that fit together, I guess I could just cram out some pretty big areas of city engineering without it taking too much time. Of course, there's still the part of growing that area, and there's the part of making sure the services and stuff are working. Yeah, but I think that might help me because I'm not really looking to do a real life city, so I wouldn't be. I do like grids, but when trying to build something that I find interesting and that I find worth my time to watch, then I wouldn't want to just be building a big grid, and I would want to build something that is a bit more challenging than just a grid, because I think the gameplay itself isn't too challenging for me anymore, and I don't mean to make you feel bad if it's still challenging for you. It was challenging for me for a very long time, and I had to read a lot of guides and stuff like that, so it's not like I'm a genius at this game. At this point I'm just somebody with a lot of experience in the game. And here I was thinking I need some plazas over there, but the really nice plazas that I installed from Metb 325, they are 6x6 and yeah, they just wouldn't fit. I think I could have just removed a bit of road over there and fit it in there, but I decided to build this design, and I think it looks pretty swanky. If you don't mind me using that word. I guess it's a bit of a 60s word, I'm not sure. Yeah, and here I forgot that I probably don't want... Yeah, at first I forgot that I wanted to do viaducts over here, because it will look kind of weird to have so many normal road crossings. So I ended up building the viaduct, and I decided to also build a viaduct station. And I think that station looks pretty nice over there. And this is me struggling to connect, to the... I tried a bunch of different things. I didn't like the way the roundabouts worked with diagonals, or didn't work with diagonals. So then you'd have to transition into orthogonal, and I felt it looked weird. Here I tested, yeah, the diagonals just don't have the right textures. That might be because of certain mods that I have installed, because I do have some mods that override some texture stuff or whatever. So it might be my bad. Maybe the NAM actually does support diagonals into those roundabouts, and yeah, I might try to figure that out, but it's it's kind of hard to figure out what mods are overriding which textures and stuff like that, right? Because I do have a bunch of different mods. Some of them are for intersection crossings that do overrides in that department, and yeah, you can't really currently you can't really look up all the textures that are overriding all the textures and compare which one you'd rather have or something like that. I have been thinking about making because I can do a bit of programming, and I've been thinking about maybe making something that would index your plugins folder. And what do I mean by that? Well, it would go through all the files in your plugins folder and look at all the TGI is like type group instance number that is ascribed to either a texture or a lot or some. It's ascribed to things in the game. So if you then make an index of that, you can maybe, I'm not sure how well this program would work, but the idea is for it to go through your plugins folders, check out all the objects in it, and give you like a way of looking at those by just first of all, it would give you a bit of a explorer kind of thing where you could go through the folder and look at the different files, but then maybe also give it a lookup function where you can make it, look at all the TGIs that are in the folder and see which ones override which. I don't know. You'd have to then preserve the loading order that would correspond to the game. Well, have to. That would be desirable, because that way you could actually simulate which part overrides what. So it's an idea of something to make. I'm not sure if I could make it. I think I could if I take enough time, and I think it would be useful for a lot of people trying to figure out how their plugins folder is working. Anyways, that was a bit of a rant. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you like these builds, please leave a comment or like or whatever. And I'd like to see you again. Goodbye.